What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Now, yesterday, a few people were asking me to do an update on the price crash. I unfortunately could not do it. There was no possible way I could get a video uploaded, so I wanted to get something out nice and early and quick for you today. We're just going to talk about charts, no fluff, nothing like that, no news. I'm just going to show you exactly what we're looking at, what we need to do, whether or not we should be in full panic mode, or if it's still all right. We'll talk about all of that. Make sure you watch the video all the way to the end. I'm going to let you know everything I'm looking at right now in the charts. Let's go. So yesterday we were talking about Bitcoin hanging at its lowest levels in basically 2 months, and we were sitting right on the edge, and we knew that we were at the edge of the cliff, and we dumped. And you can actually see over on Apex, for example, we got all the way down to 24,400. Now, that did not happen on every single exchange. Some exchanges didn't even go that low, but you could see one of the major driving forces was the fact that we did have the S&P breaking down, right? So the S&P currently is being supported by this upwards trend in the center of this parallel channel, the heart line. But the question is, how long will that last? Are we going to rip back up, maybe pull back down from the 4507, or are we just going to head straight down to the bottom? Obviously, today being the end of the week is going to make for a pretty crazy weekend. But another thing that was also contributing was the fact that we had the DXY pumping. Now, the DXY has been consistently putting in lower highs and lower lows, but you can see that currently, if we actually zoom in, we technically put in a slightly higher high than we did back here on these two wicks, right? So what we're really looking for is for the DXY to stay below this area right here, around 104.7. But enough about that. Getting back to Bitcoin, look at how we have been talking about this level. And remember, I had been talking about this for literally weeks on end, that I did feel one more test of this Terra Luna level was possible. And if you come over here, just for example, on Coinbase wicked slightly below it. It got a low of 25,234. So obviously we're never going to hit these levels perfectly exactly. But if you did have a long down at that level, if you did get triggered, currently you're up about 4%. So if you were using, 3x or something like that, then you already have 12x right there. Obviously be careful if you are in profit, because there is a possibility that occasionally you do see after violent moves, sometimes you do see continuations to the downside, but it's also very possible to see something like we did right here, where you have this move and then you instantly bounce back up, right? So is it a big concern that we lost this level, and are we destined to head down to our next level of 21,200? Well, currently right now, one thing I just want to point out as a side note is that move did in fact put in a CME futures gap. So in order to close that CME futures gap, Bitcoin would have to go back up to 27,470, and you do know that we generally do tend to touch those gaps. However, if we do look at the futures, we didn't actually get down to that 25.3 level, right? So maybe there is a possibility that, price on spot dips a little bit lower. We have this futures come and test down this area, and then we do at least minimally bounce back up to the $27,500 level. So what exactly is it that we're looking for? Well, if we look at this major long-term trend, you could see that Bitcoin generally never falls below this, and when it does, it falls below very briefly. For example, we had this retest down here on the COVID low, right? Where we came back down to this level right before we had the breakout of this. It was actually an Adam and Eve that was forming back here in 2019. But we only dipped below that just briefly for a month. Not a month, a week. And then we found our way back up to this level. So if you really do want to talk worst case possible scenarios, if history was to perfectly repeat, which it usually doesn't, obviously, because circumstances are different, well, then could we possibly come down and then test the same down here, the same as we did down here? We touch this level right here and then get back above this yellow line. That is a possibility. A lot of people think they're just going to sit, in cash and perfectly catch that dip. What if the dip never comes? That's the thing you have to consider. Whenever you're investing, you do have to look at both sides of the coin. So even if we were to come down here, have a quick retest, would we then just end up on top of this line anyway? I mean, you could put some orders down there, but for the most part, yes, we did lose this upward sloping trend, but that's okay. It's not like we were on a parabolic run anyway, right? We weren't going like this. Right? We weren't doing that. We were just nice and steady. So as we did back here, for example, we did have this, and then, we kind of had a little bit of a reset, right? We had a little mini rally within the bull rally. So there is a possibility that we could have a very similar scenario in which, maybe we do have a correction. Maybe we do go a little bit sideways and then kind of spring back up towards the end of the year. I still think we could end this year higher than we are right now, but we do have to see how that plays out. One thing that is a little bit concerning is we do find ourselves back below this 200 weekly moving average, right? And that is sitting at around 27,427. And you don't really want to stay below that for too long, especially no longer than a week, because look what happened last time we got below it here. We just struggled and Bitcoin just kept going lower and lower and lower, right? But then look what happened once we broke above it. Well, then Bitcoin bounced higher, right? So this is a very, very important level. You could see historically, it has held us up here. And something that is a little bit worrisome, I'm not going to lie, is the fact that we are seeing this 100 come down to the 200. Now, although yes, we are looking for a potential golden cross here, what we don't want to get is a death cross here. Because if that's the case, we have never, ever, ever seen a death cross ever in the history of Bitcoin where the 100 moved below the 200. This would be the first time ever, and it could be bad. It could be bad, or it could just be a fake out. But again, before we just get crazy, before we freak out, we know that nothing goes up forever. We know that we could be doing a mid-cycle rally. And yes, we could have a pullback all the way back down to this 23 area. But again, one of the reasons why I don't think we're going to see Bitcoin go below 20,000 is because of the amount of interest in this VPVR. I mean, just look at this amount of volume right here. Look at how many people were, selling and trading and buying, and how much volume was going on in that area. I think it's just too psychological of an area. It was the previous all-time high, lots of accumulation at that level. I just don't see it happening. So worst case scenario, if we came down to the bottom of this, maybe you could freak some people out down the road, come back down, briefly test 18,000. But again, I just don't think that's likely. The only downside is that right now we are seeing a lot of people starting to complain about life starting to hit pretty hard. I was showing you those videos the other day. So if we do actually end up going into a recession for real, like all these guys have been screaming for 2 years, well, then maybe that's something we need to worry about. But again, just showing you, this is my favorite, just one line trend, explain it like to a 5-year-old. Anything below this level, we know Bitcoin goes up and to the right. That's just what it does, guys. But, if you look right here, anytime we were below this area was an excellent opportunity for accumulation, right? And then boom, we had that bounce right here. We also had the COVID crash. So we find ourselves below this linear logarithmic line again. So yes, could we bounce sideways, bounce around, whatever. But I think ultimately, if you look historically, these are buying opportunities. So not financial advice, do what you want. But if you were looking for that opportunity for the pullback to get exposure, if you still have been sitting on cash, maybe now might not be a bad time to start scaling back in. So that's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Straight to the point. I will be traveling again, but obviously once I get back in the studio, we can do some deep dives on really what's going on right now in the background. We can dive into all the fun conspiracies and all that other stuff. Right now, realistically, I don't like the fact that we're sitting below the 200, but I kind of was expecting this. We had been expecting a retest of 25.3 for quite some time. We got that retest, and currently we are sitting above it. However, we have to see what happens by the end of the day with the stocks. It could get really crazy if Bitcoin starts to follow it. We're going to have to keep our eyes on it. So I will definitely make a video tomorrow. I will update you guys. Make sure you follow me over on Twitter, X. It's at The Crypto Zombie. If you guys want to follow me that way, in case I can't get a video out, you can get your information over there. There's also my socials below. And if you guys do want to learn how to trade, now's the time. It's getting crazy. You can check out the tutorials popping up right here, right now. And again, we were calling for that level. Anybody that got that level, either shorted down to that level or put their long at that level. I mean, we knew that was going to happen, right? So that's it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.